Hi, everyone. Good morning. My name is Lenya Quin, and I am the Area Fire Advisor for University of California Cooperative Extension up in Humboldt County. And I'm here today, well, I'm not here, actually. I want to apologize for not being there in person, but I'm here sitting at my desk and ready to talk about the Humboldt County Prescribed Burn Association. I know that Kate just gave a talk on options for prescribed fire on private lands. So I'm going to drill in a little deeper on this Prescribed Burn Association option and what that looks like here in Humboldt County, where we have the first PBA in the Western U.S. So I'm going to go ahead and get started and just talk about the PBA that we've got going up here. And really, we in Humboldt County had for a long time had a lot of interest in prescribed fire by private landowners, and we didn't really have a lot of options for those folks, and it became a big interest of mine to try to figure out what the options were for those people. So I started doing some research on the options that Kate talked about, but also on models from other parts of the country. And one of the areas in the country where they're doing a lot of private lands burning really successfully is in the Great Plains. And I had come across a guy named John Weir, who's an extension person out there who works on fire. And this paper by John that covered a survey that they had done of PBAs in the Great Plains. And you should check it out. But the gist of it is that in an 8-year period, 27 prescribed burn associations in the Great Plains had conducted almost 1,100 burns, covering more than 470,000 acres. This is really impressive for private land. You know, these are private landowners getting together and burning together. So we actually went to Nebraska in 2017 to learn more about this model and see it in action, and spent about a week burning with 2 different prescribed burn associations in central Nebraska. And we were so inspired and came back from that trip realizing that there was just no reason why we shouldn't be able to do this in California. And so that year, so we came back in March 2017. In June of 2017, we hosted our first burn. Not really as a PBA yet because we were just getting started, but we hosted our first cooperative community-led burn that was staffed entirely by community members, volunteer fire departments. We hired a burn boss to lead it, but other than that, it was really a community effort. And it went so well, and people were so excited to be involved. It was just a huge success. And so that fall, we actually did a couple more burns in a similar fashion. And in March of the next year, in 2018, we officially formed the Humboldt County Prescribed Burn Association. We put together a board of directors, we have bylaws, and we started a membership process where people pay $25 a year to be a member. And pretty soon, you know, within the first year, we had 80 paying members, plus a 300-person mailing list of folks who want to be kept in the loop and want to, you know, be loosely involved. It's really based on the PBA model in the Great Plains, but also on the old rangeland associations that were common in California in, you know, the 1940s, 1950s, where people would get together, neighbors helping neighbors, and burn together on each other's properties. The difference with the PBA model is that we have really diverse membership. So we're able to bring a whole cross-section of the community together, not just ranchers, but also small forest land owners, timber companies, environmental groups. We have old hippies and back to the landers. It's just everyone you can imagine. And it's really neat to see those people getting together and working together on something that they have shared values around. We also have really great participation by volunteer fire departments. We have about 11 volunteer fire departments who have worked with the PBA and helped us get our burns accomplished. And they also get really incredible training that they don't really have access to elsewhere. We also have a really good relationship with our local CAL FIRE unit, and you know, for in-season burns, they'll come out and issue permits. Often they'll provide resources as contingency, but really we've been able to forge a great relationship with them, and I see CAL FIRE as a huge asset in our county. We also bring in private contractors sometimes. For more complex burns, we'll hire a private burn boss to come in and lead the burn. And then because we're cooperative extension, we're also doing research and, you know, making sure that we're meeting the objectives of our burns and then using our burn locations as sites for field trips and for educational opportunities. We also have been able to raise a lot of grant funds for a burn trailer. So mainly from California Deer Association, which has just been a great partnership. But we've gotten funding over the last 3 years to put together this trailer that you see in the picture here. We have these slip-in units that can go in the back of the truck and create a small water resource, which is really awesome. I highly recommend these small. These are 55-gallon slip-in units. We also have a 200-gallon. We also have a bunch of radios that we're able to use on our burns, VHF radios, and we bought our own radio frequency that's a countywide frequency, and that's just a huge asset. It gives us really solid communications on our burns and a way to communicate that doesn't depend on CAL FIRE. It doesn't require us to borrow a frequency from one of our fire departments. So that's been really awesome. We also, I think Susie's handing out a paper that we authored on putting together a burn trailer and just some lessons learned from Humboldt County and some recommendations for what kinds of tools and things would get you started. So check that out if you have questions. So since that first burn in June of 2017, we have successfully accomplished 19 different burns here in Humboldt County on private lands for a total of over 1,000 acres. And this is in all different kinds of fuel types and with lots of different people. Some of our burns we just have a few people. Some of them we have 50 people. It just really depends. But we've had huge success and just so much momentum and excitement. And it's really been impressive and more than I ever anticipated. But what are we burning? I think that's probably a question you guys are wondering. What kinds of units are we burning? What fuel types are we in? We have quite a different and quite a wide variety of burns that we do in Humboldt County. One of them is range improvement. We deal with invasive species like Medusa head, which is a late season invasive and a really nasty plant that or grass that is taking over rangelands, and we're able to treat it really effectively with prescribed fire. So maybe Scott will cover that when he talks about using prescribed fire in rangelands. We also deal with conifer encroachment into our deciduous oak woodlands. So this is a huge problem in the North Coast that these firs just grow up so quickly under the oaks, overtop them, shade them out, and the oaks die. If we can get in there early on with prescribed fire, we can treat large areas really effectively and really pretty inexpensively and have great success. So we've been burning a lot in these oak woodland areas and killing these little firs that are growing up in there, and that's been great. We can even do that in December and January and even as late as February when we get those dry periods in the winter. So that's hugely effective and I think a really great tool for landowners who own these oak woodlands and want to maintain them. We also do a lot of burning in coastal grasslands, dealing with coyote brush encroachment. This burn that you see in this picture was burned last year in September. It was a 360-acre unit, and the biggest unit and biggest prescribed burn to ever be funded by NRCS in California history. So it was a really exciting project and our biggest burn yet for the Humboldt County PBA. We've also been doing some understory fuels reduction burning. We have a couple of projects under our belts. They're mostly smaller units. We're just kind of easing into this. I know this is probably what you all over in the Sierra Nevada are interested in, is doing some understory burning for fuels reduction. And we've had great success. There are some additional concerns with that. I'm sure Rob will talk about that during his presentation, but we've had a couple great burns. The one you see in that upper photo on the right-hand side, we did a burn right around a house, and that was a great learning opportunity, and the landowner was really happy, and I think their home is going to be a lot safer in the event of a wildfire there. We have a few more units lined up for this fall that are kind of the same Doug fir tan oak type. And then we've had some other kind of random burns. We've done some research projects where we've burned small areas, like this photo on the right-hand side was a clover seeding trial. We've burned blackberry, and we've burned in a vineyard to reduce grasshopper habitat because of grasshopper herbivory on the grapes. So we're really able to plug in and use the PBA to meet all kinds of objectives. We don't discriminate. If people come to us with a project, we're definitely willing to entertain it and move it forward. So it's been just really fun to see the diversity of projects that come forward. So what does it cost? This is a question we get all the time. And we actually published a small paper that I think Susie is also going to hand out to y'all, called Burning by the Day, Why Cost Per Acre is Not a Good Metric for Prescribed Fires. So check that out. That has some really good details on the actual implementation costs of the burns that we've been doing in Humboldt County with the PBA model. So what we've found is, it's really not that useful to talk about the cost per acre, because you can treat anywhere from 1 acre to 1,000 acres in one day with prescribed fire. And it's really about, what's a reasonable size for the resources you have, for the preparation you can do, and how can you maximize the size of the project and still get it done, in a day or in a handful of days. So those are the kinds of things you have to think about. For us, our in-season burns in Humboldt County have cost, with the PBA model for the implementation, about $2,500 for the day. Many of those projects are in the hundreds of acres, but even if they were small, that's still that cost of hiring a private burn boss, of getting your air quality permits. Those things don't vary a lot based on project size. They're really more about the amount of work you can get it done in a day. The out-of-season burns, where we're not hiring a burn boss, our costs are primarily our air quality fees. So we see that those costs are much less, and really hovering around $400 a day, depending on the size of the project. Our air quality structure is based on acreage. We have an exciting development here, though, just recently, that a grant from the California Air Resources Board to our local air quality district is actually going to allow them to waive all air quality fees in our district. And that's going to really help reduce the cost of implementation for these prescribed burns. So check out that paper and get a sense for some of the factors that go into our PBA burns, because the cost, if you can get a good unit prepped and maximize your acreage, then you can bring those per acre costs down by a lot. So who assumes liability on these burns? This is another question that we get all the time, and I'm sure y'all are very curious about this. Really, the landowner is ultimately responsible for whatever happens, and they're the ones who are going to sign the permits with CAL FIRE. And they're the ones who are they're gonna want to oversee and understand the risk they're taking. But there are a lot of ways we can mitigate liability, and I don't see the liability issue as a non-starter. It's something that you can do a lot of work around. We have a simple negligence liability law in California, which I don't have time to go into right now. But really, if you have a good burn plan, you've prepared your unit well, you're burning in prescription, following your burn plan, you have the right resources on site, you are mitigating your liability, and you're crossing off the things you need to cross off to burn safely and effectively. You can hire a private burn boss with insurance for more complex burns. Always work with your neighbors. We have some projects here where we're cross-boundary. We actually have neighbors working together and burns that go across those property lines. That's the best, these are the best things you can do to really relieve some of your liability concern. You can also request CAL FIRE to be on site. They usually want to and are totally willing to be there and help out if they can, or not help out, but help out as contingency, so as a standby resource. But there's actually a public resource code that tells them that they should be there, and that they're allowed by law to be on site and to provide assistance if it's needed. So check out Public Resource Code 4491. It talks a little bit about that and really opens up opportunity. And then coming in 2020 is a really exciting development. Again, this could be a whole hour-long presentation of its own, but the California State Certified Prescribed Fire Burn Boss certification. This is something that's coming out of Senate Bill 1260, which was signed into law last fall by Governor Brown, and is really exciting. I'm on the cadre that's developing the curriculum for this certification, and it'll be a state certification for a private burn boss, and will open up a lot of opportunity for liability sharing with CAL FIRE through the permit process, for all kinds of things. It's really a neat development and something I actually never thought we'd see in California. So check that out. Check out SB 1260. And feel free to reach out to me if you have questions about that. There's a lot going on there. So, in summary on that one, the landowner really is ultimately responsible, but there are a lot of ways that you can mitigate liability and do this work safely. So don't let that be a non-starter for you. And then I want to finish with some core philosophies of our PBA. And really the most important one for Humboldt County, and that I recommend everywhere, is that everyone is welcome to be part of the PBA, and everyone has something to contribute. We have old people, young people, fit people, not so fit people, people from all different walks of life, and everyone is welcome. And we try our hardest to make sure that each person who shows up is welcomed with open arms and plugged into a position on the burn that keeps them safe, but makes them feel useful. And if they're not comfortable hiking, then they can take pictures or help with lunch or read the weather over the radio. But we're never going to turn someone away or tell them they just have to stand on the sidelines and not participate because they're not the right kind of person. The inclusivity and bringing in diverse people is really important to us. And some of our most active PBA members are in their 70s. We have some folks who are even in their 80s, and they're just excellent members. Every day is a burn day. So this doesn't mean we're out burning every day, but it means that we're kind of thinking about it, and it's on our radar all the time. We could be working on our permits, working on our smoke management plans. If it's a rainy day, maybe we're out burning some piles to get a unit ready. Every day is a burn day, in the sense that we could always be getting ready for our next burn. So it's just this is a saying that comes out of the Southeast and Florida and stuff, and I really like the idea that you can always be working on something related to prescribed fire, and that'll get you ready when your windows open up. And every burn is a training burn. We're always learning. So, sometimes you'll hear people say that it's, oh, that's a training burn, or it's not. But for the Humboldt County PBA, every burn is a training burn, and we're going to make sure that it's always a learning environment, and that we're explaining concepts and giving people a chance to rotate through and try different things, and just really make it all about learning and building capacity. That's super important. And lastly, prescribed fire should be fun, and it is fun. And there's nothing better than seeing someone out on their first burn, and they just get that light in their eye, and they're so excited, and they can't wait for the next one. And it's really part of it being this community-led thing and really grassroots. And we always have a barbecue at the end of each burn and drink a beer together. And it's building community and building capacity, and it's so positive, and it's just a lot different than anything else. I just absolutely love that part of it. So you can see in these pictures the diversity of the folks who are involved in the Humboldt County PBA. We have all different kinds of people working together. And in the upper right, you see my son, who was 4 at the time. He's come out on our burns and just loved it. And you can make it safe and engaging for pretty much anyone. So I highly recommend that you bring that attitude to your prescribed fire work as you move forward. So feel free to reach out to me. I'm going to be here for a couple minutes to answer questions. I think we have time for that. And feel free to email me or call me if you have, want more detail on anything I covered. Thank you so much for your time, and thanks for tolerating the remote presentation. And I hope the workshop is great. Take care. Thanks so much.